Hi,
Carrie, welcome to the Travel Coach.
I'm so excited.
I'm so happy to have you on board. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Sonia?
Very good, thank you. Awesome. If you want, before getting started, can you tell us a bit more about yourself for everybody who don't know you, who you are, what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Carrie Veatch, and I am a mindset and high performance coach. I am mostly nomadic, so I love to travel. And I'm really, really obsessed with helping other people to create their own version of freedom. So that looks different for everyone, but really learning the tools and the strategies and the way to tap into your own potential.
That's an amazing combination. Travel and coaching and mindset. I love that. So, you know that the Travel Coach is all about stories of transformation. So, before getting started, I would like to ask you, what does transformation mean to you? Just in a couple of words.
Yeah, transformation to me is all about the ability to change and to believe that something else is possible for you and that you get to have that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. So, you describe yourself as a mindset and performance coach, but I know your background is different. Tell us more about what you used to do before that.
Yeah, so I have a master's degree in counseling, so I'm trained as a therapist. And I always just have this deep love for helping people and psychology and what it is that helps people to change. But quite honestly, like I didn't know how to change myself. Like I knew how in small bits, but I was stuck in this cycle of like victimhood and depression and really feeling like, how is it that everyone else has this like secret to life that I don't have? Um, and so it was very hard, but I just always knew I wanted to help people. And so counseling was kind of the thing that at least allowed me to help people on a deeper level. But I've done a lot of other things in between then and now, including work for a lot of different nonprofits. I worked in victim services. Worked in gang prevention. I ran an association for geologists as a nonprofit, which is like so random but fun. And so I really learned about business running that organization. So I was the executive director of a nonprofit, and that's where I learned like, oh, there's more possible, and got the practical skills in business that now I'm able to help clients with in a very different way.
Yeah, I see how you are all about service and helping others, and you had this since very beginning. But you said also that you were in this position yourself, that you saw other people and you had the feeling that they knew something or they were living kind of life that you didn't have for yourself. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so the best way I describe it, and I think we can easily get caught in these thought loops, is like everyone else knows something. I'm not part of the secret club that everyone else has like life figured out or business figured out or whatever it is, right? And so I realized, and especially more in the last couple of years, of how much that was just my own levels of thinking. But I remember feeling so disempowered. Like I want to change. I want to be able to access this way of being that I feel like I see other people doing, but I just don't know how. And a little piece of my story as well is that I have celiac disease. And so I had a lot of gut problems that really affected my mental health. And so I had been in therapy for years. I'd been trying really to access the tools and like help myself and doing what I knew to do. But until I went gluten free, it was harder for me because I just had a lot of mental health struggles related to my gut health.
Imagine, and you didn't know where this was coming from.
Yeah, yeah.
When do you think was the turning point? The moment that you thought, okay, I cannot go business as usual anymore. Something needs to change. I have to do something different. Can you
Yeah,
remember
so
a moment?
there's a lot of there was a lot of little moments, but one of the really big moments, and then I know we'll kind of dive into it, is the day I knew I couldn't stay in my job anymore, when I was running the organization. And I, as an American, like at the time, you know, very much living in this life of all the things that America sold me, or conditioning or society told me I was supposed to want. And none of them are bad or wrong, but I had bought a house, I had bought a rental property, I had paid off my grad school loans. I kind of like checked the boxes of the things that everyone told me should make me happy. And I was happy, but I was also like, is this it? Like, this is what I have to do for the next 30 years of my life? Like, I don't know. And so it was a lot of those moments where I kind of was looking around like, is everyone else buying into this, or does someone else like know something of how we can be even happier? Because like, I don't want to do this for 30 more years.
I can relate so much. It's just very similar what happened to me as well, right? You do everything right. You tick all the boxes as you said, what you were told to do, and you have like this success, but does not feel like success. It's like, okay, is this all that it is? You have the feeling that you are missing something, right?
Yes. Yes.
So what did you
And
do?
it just was like, what's that?
What did you do? How did you find your answers?
Well, it's been a long, windy path, that's for sure. But from there, I really started listening to my inner guidance and like figuring out how I could silence all the outside noise and start to lean into like, what do I actually want? Who am I? And how do I make sure I'm lining up my life choices with what I'm here to do versus what everyone else is telling me I should want? Um, and so I started practicing that in big and small ways. And, you know, the first big way was I quit my job with no plan B. And I had to practice a lot of internal listening and letting go of the noise of what other people had to say, because I was giving up a very good job for the unknown.
Yeah. Wow. So that's so heavy, right? And I don't know if people around you were supporting you or were just putting more doubt and are you crazy? What are you doing? But it's so key what you said. It's about silencing all this noise to actually listen what's inside and living life on your own terms versus just doing what you were supposed to do and what other people expect from you. And this is a turning point indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had a combination, like most of us probably, right? Like I had some people that were completely supportive and cheering me on and knew that I would figure it out. And then other people that were like, what in the world are you doing?
Totally. Especially, so you just quit your job with no plan B.
Yeah. So I had a plan in my mind, but it wasn't in terms of like another job or another opportunity. So I had two properties. So I had two mortgages, and the rental market is just really good in Denver. And so I had run the numbers and I knew I could rent out my nicer place, like my house, and cover the cost mostly of both mortgages with a renter. So I would have my basic living expenses covered. And so that freed me up to, because what I really knew I needed was time. Like I needed some spaciousness to think, to feel, to have that silence and like allow for the next step versus being so busy and not being able to hear what that step was. And so I had that as a plan, but I didn't have anything else. I just had that and knowing like I would figure it out and really having to lean into that level of trust within myself.
Yeah, was just following your intuition, your gut feeling. And I suppose when you had all the financial part, which is the more scary, I suppose, and you had like a solution and you trusted in yourself and you had the confidence to say, yeah, I will figure it out and find this space, this time that you set for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And what
Yeah,
happened from
exactly.
there? What was the next step? What happened?
So I booked a plane ticket so that I couldn't get talked out of quitting my job was the first step, because I knew, like, I reported to a board of directors and I knew that they would try to talk me into staying, you know, give me more money or whatever. And I was like, I can't, money is not the thing. You know, I need to do this for myself. And so I bought a plane ticket to Brazil, and that was my plan, so that I couldn't, you know, talk myself out of it. So I went to South America for 6 weeks and traveled with a friend, and that really provided a lot of time and space, and also like this new love of travel that now I haven't let go of since then.
Why Brazil? Why did you choose this country?
One of my friends was living down there and I really wanted to go, and it was a perfect opportunity with how the timing lined up of quitting my job, her having time off, because it was over the holidays and she had a very long break. She was teaching. And so it was just the timing, and I really wanted to go to South America. I had never been. So it was my first trip to South America.
Okay, so you had a friend there living there, and she told you, yeah, come here, I'm free for this week. Yeah, so but this was all like coincidence, or was everything, you know, the timing worked well for you? You quit your job and then
the timing just worked well, you know, and I think this is where now I know it's really hard to do and to actually like live out in practice. But I tell clients this all the time, is we just have to know the next right step. We think we need 17 steps in the future, and that's how we're conditioned to think. But our job is not to know all the steps or the how. You know, a lot of people, when you talk about manifestation or however you want to teach it, you hear these things, but it's really, really true. Like, we just need that next right step. And so for me, that was trusting myself, of going, okay, Brazil's the next right step. I will figure it out. I will sort it out from there. And how do I do my own work internally to calm my nervous system, to be in my body, to feel safe and okay while taking that next right step.
how did you know that traveling or going to Brazil in this case was the solution, or was the next step for you?
It just was like a lot of little nudges and things, you know what I mean? And this is where I think if we're really listening to ourselves and tuning in, like the universe, God, whatever you believe in, will like show you those things. Like, I would have an Uber driver say something and I'd be like, ooh, okay. Or something in a yoga class, you know, it was just like all these people from different places, and I couldn't ignore it. Like, I knew deep within me, like, this is the right step for me, and being willing to take that action.
Yeah.
And so I did.
Did you have anything, you know, like an intention, or you were looking, what did you expect to have from this trip? What were, before going there, what do you imagine yourself getting when you came back from it?
So that trip, and just for like context for anyone listening, is that was 5 years ago. And I think at that point I was really, I don't know if burnt out is the right word, because I don't think I was extremely burnt out, but I was also, like many people, like overworked and unsure. And I really needed some spaciousness and some play and rest. So if anything, like, those were the things I wanted.
Yeah, re-energize and just, yeah, charge batteries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you arrived to Brazil. What happened there? What is the first impression?
It was so fun. It's so different than American culture. It was super cool though. I got to spend the holidays. So my friend is now married to her then boyfriend. But at the time, you know, they were just dating, and he didn't speak much English at all. And so I spent Christmas with 14 Brazilians,
Wow.
and most of them did not speak any English. Like his siblings speak English, but the rest of his family does not. So it was such a fun experience to get to spend the holidays with Brazilians and communicate in different ways. And this is what I've learned the more I've traveled. Like, you don't have to speak the same language. It's so much easier to communicate than we actually think.
Yeah, this is a big barrier that some people have in their minds, right? I don't speak the language, so maybe I choose another country, despite I feel like going there, but the language I don't feel comfortable. And actually, eventually, if you want to communicate and the other person wants to communicate, you're gonna make it, yeah? You're gonna make you
Yes,
understand each other.
totally.
So you spend the holidays, you were over Christmas for 6 weeks.
Yeah, so we spent several weeks in Brazil. We traveled to different places in Brazil, and then we also went for 2 weeks to Patagonia, mostly the Argentina side.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. What's some anecdote or something that you remember especially? Maybe somebody you meet or some landscape you saw.
So the Puerto Moreno Glacier in Patagonia is literally one of the most magnificent things I've ever seen. I remember when we were booking the trip, you have to go with like a tour to go there, and it's about a half day trip as the minimum. I'm like, why are we going to go stare at a glacier for half a day? What are we going to do? But it is mesmerizing. And I think it's just such a reminder of how much beauty is around us, but we have to take the time to stop and enjoy, and just be present with what is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we forget in our daily life, the routine, right? Is just taking all our energy and we are too much in our minds and we forget about, and this is what travel creates, this space for us to do that.
Exactly.
What did you learn about yourself in this trip?
So much. I mean, it was just the beginning, right? So that was the beginning of my journey, and in terms of travel, of starting my own business, of really unlearning a lot of the conditioning. And I think that is one of the biggest things that travel has taught me is, and it's the same in business, there's no right or wrong way to do something. But especially as an American who grew up in a very privileged academic world, there was a right way and there was a wrong way. And it was like, you will be a doctor or a lawyer or a whatever, right? Like that was the path. And anything else was not really acceptable. And I just think that when we can, well, I know when we can open up our minds to possibilities and seeing life through a different lens, like we get to learn so much, and travel teaches us that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. You see better what's actually you and what's actually the conditioning, the adaptive self that you are in your country or where you just grow up, and
Yes.
the roles that sometimes we confuse with our identities, but it's not who we are, it's how we learn to be, right?
Yes. Yes.
What did you learn about other people?
Again, I think all kinds of travel has taught me this, and that is people are genuinely loving, kind people. The world is not as scary as of a place as sometimes the media or other places make it out to be. I learned I could communicate with people even if I didn't speak their language. People want to help if you ask for help. Yeah, those would be some of my top things for sure.
So that you spend all these beautiful holidays, weeks there. I don't know if your mind was already thinking what will be next, but what happened when you had to come back home? What was different, or how you were different? What did you do from there?
The short story is 3 or 5 days, I can't remember, before I came back. My boyfriend broke up with me out of the blue. And I thought I was coming home to a life of being with him and building a life together and moving in together and like all this wonderful stuff. And instead, I was crying my eyeballs out and miserable. So I had no job, no boyfriend, and completely unsure of what I was
I have
doing.
goosebumps.
Yeah, so that happened.
So eventually down the line, down the road, you saw that this is the best thing could happen to you, I assume, right? It's
Yes,
where you are now.
absolutely.
But yeah, so what was the what actually did to find what was next for you at that point you were there?
Yeah. So I took 7 months after that point, or that time included, about 7 months. And I just really took a lot of silence and rest and play. And I was back in Colorado, and my parents had also gotten divorced. I just had a lot of like grief and loss and things that were different than they had before my trip. And so I took a lot of time to just sort out like, what do I actually want? Because I knew I could just go get a different job, but I knew that also was not the solution that I was looking for. So, short story is I applied to teach in South Korea. And 6, 7 months later, I moved to South Korea. And that was the catalyst again, right? If I had been with my boyfriend, I never would have gone and moved abroad and built the life that I have now in terms of being able to be anywhere and help clients all over the world. Um, but it was a windy path. I never want to give the illusion of like, I just decided to start a business and move abroad. Like, no, it was a lot of hard moments leading up to it.
Yeah, it was a bigger plan for you. So at that time, you didn't see it, and I suppose, was this struggling and this grief and this pain that you had to go through, and you took this time that you needed to slow
Yes.
down, nurture yourself, and this is something that most people would just have done in your position, right? Think about, okay, what's in my CV, what's my experience, what are my skills, what job can I just start now, and not thinking, not suffering, not just jump in the next job and just carry on. But you
Yes.
took, you had the patience, the strength, the belief to just stop and say, no, I don't want to just find a job where I fit. I want to actually find what I want to do, what I'm passionate about. And this led you to South Korea.
Yeah, I had always wanted to live abroad. So it was just something that I was supposed to do in college and I never did. And so it was kind of one of those things where, again, all the voices, if I had chosen to listen, would say, you can't, you have 2 mortgages, you're in your 30s, what are you doing? Like all of those voices, if I allowed them, would have overtaken me. And I decided, okay, it's never too late. I always have choices and I can still do this.
Share with us some tool or some technique that you use to overcome these voices. If somebody's listening now and is in a similar situation and just the fear is too strong, what they can do to really connect with the inner feeling and listen what they have to do.
Yeah. So, like we talked about a little bit at the beginning, I think it's so important to silence the noise. Like, the thing is I really believe most of us know what to do or what we want to do. But again, that fear can feel all encompassing, right? And the way I like to describe it is we want to learn to have fear in the passenger seat, not in the driver's seat, because it's always going to be there. It's not like eliminate the fear. Like, no, it's going to be there. But can you have it in the passenger seat? And so some just like practical ways and suggestions are, to me, are like, who is one person that supports your dream and your vision? And how can you like really tune into only listening to that person versus like Aunt Sally, who has 17 questions and wants, every time you walk away from her, you feel like, oh my gosh, can I do this? I'm doubting myself again. Like, we don't want to go talk to Aunt Sally or those people right now. So limit your exposure, so to speak, of being around those people, and just give yourself permission for that to be okay, to not listen to everyone right now.
Yeah, the environment is so powerful. So in the context of physically, the travel environment or the physical environment, but also people that you surround yourself by, so powerful.
Yes, yes. So, and develop a new empowering thought. Like, this can get a bad rap sometimes, like thought work, or when you're trying to change your beliefs. But truly, can you have a new thought that helps you feel better? It's gonna feel far away and not true oftentimes, right? Because it's like, let's say you're trying to become a millionaire and you're like, well, I have $17 in my bank account. I don't feel like a millionaire. But like, what's a bridge thought? Maybe it's, I have $200 in my bank account. But like something that gets you closer to that dream and that vision, and start reprogramming your mind with those types of thoughts.
Yeah, it's a lot of faith as well, and belief, and even if you cannot see, believe that it's a possibility and walk in that direction. As you said before, the next step, you don't need to see the whole path, it's just the next step, and you have this feeling and believe it that is in this direction.
Yes,
absolutely,
exactly.
So from South Korea now to nomadic, how this also this transition, and what point you decided, look, I'm gonna have a nomadic life and just travel as a part of lifestyle?
Yeah, so again, short story is I left Korea and I traveled full time for about 3.5 months over in Asia. So I had a gluten-free business at the time, and I was interviewing restaurants, and I loved it. And especially now in the pandemic, I'm so, so grateful I got to do it. It was also exhausting because I was traveling really, really fast, like a week, 10 days in countries, and it was too much, like just too much. So then I discovered like, oh, you can go to some places and spend like 3 months there or 6 months there pretty easily and get a visa. And that's much more my style and my jam these days, because I love community. I love deep connection. Having the same shallow conversation every night at dinner with a stranger, while fun, gets very old quickly. So yeah, and then fast forward to 2019, I finally got sick of my own stories, my own limitations, and I was like, I know that I want to help people in a way that supports them. And I found the online coaching space, and I finally got over my fears, hired a coach, and went all in on creating my business.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, Carrie. What a powerful story. And I believe actually what you said is right. It's even more transformational when we travel and we go deep, right? Versus just checking and visit different places. Some people just think, yeah, I visited so many countries, but did you actually learn about the people? So, part of the country and the place and the culture. So it's much more than that. And slowing travel and taking more time and being like part of you are like nearly living there for these few months is I think, and after COVID, I think it's going to be more part of people's lifestyle as well when they want to travel.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Carrie, for this amazing story. So you know that I don't want to let you go before you share with us the hidden gem. So what's the place, the region, in your area that you think is a must to visit?
Yeah, so I am currently in Colorado. It's snowing outside. It's wild. I'm not a winter person at all. But the one place that I recommend, I don't know that it's so hidden anymore, but especially as someone who has celiac disease, so I'm gluten-free, but it's this really great place that makes, are you familiar with arepas? The
Yeah.
Venezuelan food?
Yes, beautiful, delicious.
Yeah, so there's a place called Quiero Arepas, and they are amazing. It's 100% gluten-free, but it like if you don't have celiac and you're not gluten-free, it doesn't matter. Like loads of people love it. And it is just so, so good. So I highly recommend checking it out if you're in Denver.
So we add it in the bucket list, definitely. Quiero arepas.
Yes.
Last but not least, Carrie, if somebody wants to contact you, what's the best place?
Yeah, so easiest way, honestly, is here on Instagram at setyourselffree.llc. I have a free mindset journal I would love to give you. You can find it on my website, or you can just pop me a DM, and I would love to give that to you. It's a lot of prompts of how I booked over 40 sales calls and made $14,000 in a month, and you can do the same.
Wow, amazing. Definitely check it out. Thank you, Carrie. It's been a pleasure to have you on board the Travel Coach today.
Thank you so much, Sonia. This was so fun.
Thank you, and everybody tuning in. happy and safe travels. Bye. Bye bye, Carrie.
Thank you. Bye bye.